the Palatine Hill. 24th of January, 41 AD, just past midday. A narrow, sunless passageway runs beneath the imperial complex. Stone walls, damp brick, old incense. At one end, a young man in his late 20s walks slightly behind his retinue. He is the most powerful man in the world. He has ruled Rome for 3 years, 10 months, and 8 days. In the next 90 seconds, he will be stabbed more than 30 times by the men paid to keep him alive. His name is Gaius Julius Caesar Augustus Germanicus. History remembers him as Caligula, and the man who strikes first is not a senator, not a rival, not a foreign enemy. He is a Praetorian officer the emperor has humiliated for months in public because of the sound of his voice. This is the story of how Rome killed its emperor for the first time. The corridor, the blade, the empty throne, the man found hiding behind a curtain, and the watchword spoken at the end, liberty. To understand why it happened, you have to understand that Caligula did not begin as a monster. When he came to power in March of 37 AD, at 24, Rome adored him. He was the son of Germanicus, the beloved general whose name still carried almost sacred weight with the army and the people. He had survived the paranoid final years of Tiberius, when much of his family had been destroyed. To many Romans, he looked like rescue. At first, he acted like it. He cut taxes. He recalled exiles. He paid legacies from Tiberius's will. He held games. Ancient writers describe a young emperor who could be charming, generous, witty, and brilliant. Then, 6 months into his reign, he fell catastrophically ill. No one knows what it was. Some suspected poison. Others imagined a fever that damaged the mind. He lay bedridden for weeks while Rome waited outside the palace in fear. When he recovered, the man who emerged seemed different. The cruelty began quietly. His young cousin and co-heir, Tiberius Gemellus, was executed for conspiracy. His father-in-law was forced to kill himself. His sisters were exiled. Then the cruelty became theater. Caligula revived the treason trials that had terrified Rome under Tiberius. He demanded honors that blurred the line between emperor and living god. He had a temple to himself on the Palatine, with a golden statue dressed each day in the clothes he wore. He appeared as Jupiter, Neptune, Hercules, even Venus. Then came the famous stories. His horse, Incitatus, was given extraordinary luxury, and sources say Caligula spoke of making it consul. In Gaul, a campaign reached the coast and ended with soldiers collecting seashells as spoils from the sea. Across the Bay of Naples, he built a vast bridge of boats and rode across it in golden armor, as if reality itself would obey him. By the autumn of 40 AD, the treasury was strained, the Senate was terrified, the army was uneasy, and inside the Praetorian Guard, hatred was hardening into a plan. The Praetorians were not ordinary soldiers. They were the emperor's elite bodyguards, the armed men closest to his body, his palace, and his secrets. Their duty was to protect him. But under Caligula, some began to imagine the unthinkable. At the center of the conspiracy was a tribune named Cassius Chaerea. Chaerea was a veteran. He had served on the Rhine under Caligula's father. He was older, experienced, brave, and by reputation, deeply serious. Caligula decided he was funny. The joke was Chaerea's voice. Ancient writers say it sounded high-pitched or effeminate to Roman ears. So when Chaerea came to receive the daily watchword, the password the guard used to identify itself, Caligula gave him humiliating words. Venus, Priapus. Names that made soldiers laugh when Chaerea had to repeat them aloud. Month after month, the insult continued. When Chaerea greeted the emperor by kissing his hand, Caligula would offer an obscene gesture instead. For a proud soldier, commanding armed men, the humiliation was corrosive. A conspiracy formed around him. A few Praetorian officers, some senators, perhaps figures inside the palace who saw Caligula's reign becoming dangerous for everyone near it. They needed the right moment. That moment came during the Palatine Games, held in honor of the deified Augustus. For several days in January, Caligula moved between a temporary theater on the Palatine and his private quarters. One route passed through a narrow underground passage. That passage was the place, on the morning of the 24th of January, Caligula watched performances in unusually good spirits. He stayed longer than expected. Around midday, he decided to leave for a bath and lunch. His attendants debated which route he should take. If he chose the public colonnade, the conspirators might lose their chance. He chose the underground passage. He went ahead of much of his retinue, slowed by young Greek performers brought from Asia for a sacred dance. He stopped to speak with them. He praised one, he turned to instruct another. Then Cassius Chaerea stepped forward and asked for the day's watchword. What Caligula answered is disputed. Some sources say it was Jupiter. Others suggest something more obscene. Whatever the word was, Chaerea drew his sword and struck. The ancient writers disagree on the first blow. Suetonius says it hit between the neck and shoulder. Josephus says it struck the jaw. Either way, it did not kill him. Caligula staggered, cried out, and tried to run. The other conspirators closed in. Cornelius, Sabinus, Aquila. Names preserved because they knew history would remember them. The attack was brutal, but brief. More than 30 wounds, according to the sources. In less than a minute, the emperor was dead. His body lay in the corridor. The killers scattered. News moved through the palace in whispers, then shouts, then running feet. And this is where the story becomes stranger than an assassination. For the next few hours, the Roman Empire had no emperor, and no one knew what should happen next. The Senate met in emergency session. For the first time in generations, senators openly debated restoring the republic. Some wanted liberty from emperors altogether. Others wanted a new ruler chosen from among themselves. They argued. Time passed. Nothing was settled. Meanwhile, Caligula's German bodyguard, a separate unit loyal to him personally, erupted in confusion and rage. Several senators nearby were killed. Caligula's wife, Caesonia, was murdered. Their infant daughter, Julia Drusilla, was also killed. The conspirators wanted no surviving heir around whom loyalists could gather. Then, in a side room of the palace, a Praetorian soldier named Gratus pulled aside a curtain and found a 50-year-old man hiding behind it. The man was trembling. He stammered, he limped. For his entire life, he had been treated as the embarrassment of the imperial family, kept alive partly because no one considered him dangerous enough to kill. He was Caligula's uncle. His name was Tiberius Claudius Nero Germanicus. Gratus recognized him, dropped to one knee, and saluted him as emperor. It was not a grand constitutional moment. It was a soldier finding the last available adult male of the imperial house and making a practical decision. Someone had to be in charge. Claudius was carried, half against his will, to the Praetorian camp. There, the guard proclaimed him emperor. Then, Claudius did something that changed Roman politics forever. He paid them 15,000 sesterces per soldier. It was the first time the Praetorian Guard had been openly rewarded for installing an emperor. It would not be the last. By evening, the Senate abandoned its debate and confirmed Claudius. The man hiding behind a curtain at midday was master of the Roman world by nightfall. But Cassius Chaerea, the man who made it possible, still waited to learn his reward. Claudius had a problem. He owed the throne to Chaerea's blade, but he could not allow the murder of an emperor to go unpunished. If Chaerea survived, every future Praetorian would know that killing the ruler might be a career move, so Claudius ordered Chaerea executed. The tribune accepted the verdict. He had served Rome for decades. He understood the logic. According to tradition, on the morning of his execution, Chaerea was allowed to choose the watchword one final time. A small ceremony. A last word. He chose liberty. Then he was killed with the same sword he had used against Caligula. The assassination ended one reign, but revealed something far more dangerous. The Praetorian Guard had discovered that the men guarding the emperor could also make and unmake him. They had killed one ruler, installed another, and been paid for it. For the next 2.5 centuries, that lesson would echo through Roman history. Emperors would be murdered in bedrooms, baths, camps, and roadsides. The throne would become, again and again, a prize decided by armed men standing close enough to strike. It began in a corridor beneath the Palatine, on a January afternoon, with a soldier mocked one time too many for the sound of his voice. The watchword Caligula gave Chaerea moments before he died has been argued over for 2,000 years. We will probably never know it, but we know the word Chaerea chose for himself: liberty.